Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Subs Bench video series. Tonight's episode we have Austin Ludwik of Gold Coast Knights and Carlos Saliadarre. Have I got that right?
Spot on.
I'm pretty happy with myself there. Tonight's episode is leading by example. So we have two of the NPL's finest captains with us to talk us through their careers and where they're at right now. So have Tom here, obviously.
Hey.
As per usual. Thanks for being here, Tom. Not everyone could be here tonight, obviously.
Ben's away, ill, I believe.
Doing
Got some sort of
things. Yeah.
We won't talk about what he's doing, but yeah, we're very lucky to be here with you two boys. So welcome to the bench. Both of you not used to being on the bench, obviously, being captains of your respective sides. But yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here, boys. How'd you get started, fellas? Junior clubs, where did it all start for you two? We'll start with you, Austin.
Me? So I didn't actually come from a footballing family. My old man played AFL and basketball, but my brother started in primary school, being he's 3.5 years older than me, so I was kind of just chasing him around. And then junior clubs, Burleigh Heads was my first club. About 5 years old, I think I started there. And then I hopped around a little bit, sort of just wherever I lived is where I played. I was at Palm Beach, Merrimack, Bond was a club back then for the juniors, so I played around there. And then from there, I think about 11 or 12, sort of the reps pathway, Gold Coast reps it was called, and then sort of travelled through that through the juniors, which led into QAS Raw Youth. And that was my trajectory. I think after the local clubs, I didn't really have a club. It was more so the reps program and sort of that pathway.
Never thought about following your old man down the AFL?
No, I think I was sort of dribbling and playing soccer as much as possible when I was young and picked it up pretty well, and my brother was loving it, so I was kind of just doing whatever he did, and yeah, stuck at it, and here we are.
Fair enough. How about you, mate?
Me, I'm South American, so I was born and bred with soccer. My old man played, so naturally I was 3 when I started. And I started off at Smithfield Hotspurs, a club in Western Sydney. And then growing up there, obviously I had Marconi, City United close, so I did my youth pretty much through them, and Blacktown City. But yeah, it was always going to be soccer for me. There was no other choice.
Was the NSL still around in those days as well?
Yeah, NSL for us was massive. So my old man played with Alex Ross's dad. I grew up with his brother. So for us, it was watching Alex at Marconi in the NSL and Nicky Carl. That was big for us.
There's a name, Nicky Carl.
Yeah, that's what we grew up with.
Yeah.
So that was big for us.
Did you always know you were going to be a keeper?
Yeah, always. So my old man was a keeper, and that's all I've ever done. And my son's very similar, I guess, even though I don't want him to be. He's done the same thing since he started playing. But yeah, it's all I've ever known.
Fair enough. Never had a thought of pushing yourself further forward, going
you
against the
have
old
to
man's will?
No, you have to run. That's not my...
I play on the field and I don't do much of that. So.
I suppose a defender and a keeper, like it's probably not the most. Well, when you're growing up, you always want to score the goals. So I guess, yeah, your dad was a keeper. Is there any reason why you became a defender?
No, I wasn't always a defender. I think when you're young, you play wherever, obviously, and that leads to goals. And I think everyone sort of says when they're young, they're a number 10. Play everywhere that you can, try to score goals. And then as I got older, I kind of moved back 10, 6, and then ended up at centre back probably when I went through the QAS Raw sort of pathway. That's where you find your position, and still there now. Still fancy myself a bit in the midfield at training, but that's about as hard as I go.
Good.
Yeah. I guess, like obviously starting your juniors and whatnot, like the move into senior football, how did that happen? How did it progress? And how were the older boys with you guys when you first came into senior football, I guess? Carlos?
For me, I started pretty young in the first grade system at Blacktown City. Genchi, ATEC Gench was the first grade coach there. And I think Crawley may have just left or been the keeper coach, and Ivan Nasevsky was the keeper. So I started training with them, and they had a great side, that first grade team at that time. So there was a lot of like ex-NSL players. I think Damien Fox was there, who ended up playing 300 plus games for Blacktown City. So yeah, it was a great environment to come through, just to see how Genchi coached and how he had, he was 4'0", but he'd make players bow down to him. Yeah, he was unreal. So it's good to see.
Did you ever push Nachevsky for a spot?
No, I was young, so he was a fair few years older than me. And I think I was there, sort of 20s keeper was injured, so I was playing 18s and 20s. But I was still really young. Ivan was great with me. And I wasn't very big too back then. So he protected me pretty well.
That's good. He went on to play a lot of A-League games, didn't he?
Yeah, he played a lot of A-League games and even a
Back
bunch
into-
of NPL games.
Just retired from RPL.
Yeah, he won Keeper of the Year last year
Yeah.
at 43.
Jesus.
They won the league, and I think he's hung them
Correct
up.
me if I'm wrong. Is that the Crawley that went on to be the goalkeeping coach?
Correct.
With
So
Matty Ryan, maybe.
Yeah.
The Mariners.
that was the
John
start.
Crawley,
right?
John Crawley. That was the start of the A-League.
Yeah.
So I think he had initially went there as the keeper, but was injured, became keeper coach. And then Ivan took over from there, and then he got the A-League gig. That's where I started my first grade journey.
For me, mine's very different to that. I think being with the QAS and the Royal Youth, we were kind of always young guys playing in the men's league when it was the Queensland Premier League, playing as that Royal Youth team. So the senior setup for us, I think, as QAS players was the Royal Youth boys, the NYL boys, when they would come back and play. Brandon Borello, Lachlan Jackson, those were kind of that senior group. Kwame Bowl was with them, and for us, we looked at them as the senior group, even though thinking back now, they were probably only 3 or 4 years older, 17, 18 at the time.
Yeah.
But they really sort of had that senior vibe to it, where we would try and grow and get into that team, and that's where you sort of got your chances. For me, then we take over that, and then you have the young boys coming into the QAS and the Royal Youth. So that was sort of the look of first grade football for us. It wasn't really having those senior players, and then obviously the way things go with the Royal Youth, we all went separate ways. So for me, the first real setup with the senior team and being in the dressing room was Gold Coast City. I would come back from the US in those 3-4 months that I would have the summer break. And Justin Mackay, Ben Litf and Lockie Roos, that was sort of the team that went really good in Gold Coast City back then, and I would come back and play with them. So I think that was probably my first real experience with senior players and actually having a senior team rather than youth boys kind of being looked at that way. But how they were welcoming, I think Justin Mackay was a really good captain at the time. A lot of guys in that team were Gold Coast-based boys who had played at the Raw and had come back. So they were really welcoming of players that were in my situation that would have gone somewhere else or been in a youth team and wanted to come and play again in their hometown in the Gold Coast. So for me, that was sort of how it went through, and that continued for the next few years until I was back here in at Knights now. So
Is Mackay still at United?
No, he was there on the weekend, just watching,
Not playing though?
but not playing. I think we're trying to convince him to come back.
Yeah, well, he came up. We were talking about players who played the most games in the NPL, and he was one that we would have thought would have to be up there, and I thought he was still going, admittedly. But what's he? Yeah, he pulled the pin, done.
Yeah, no, look, the plan was for him to still be here this year, but with Soccer X, the work, he went over to the US.
Okay.
It kicked off a bit bigger than, what probably the plan was.
Good.
It's great for him. But yeah, I think he's only recently come back.
Okay.
And yeah, like I said, he was there on the weekend. We'll see.
Handy player to have potentially
Yeah.
coming back in.
Hopefully, see if we can get him over the line.
Yeah,
Come
good.
the window, you never know.
Yeah, 5 games to go. That's good, eh?
When like you mentioned about you hit that part coming to the end of the QAS and the Royal Youth. What age were you when you sort of realised that you can only stick around the QAS for so long? Like you got to look for something else now.
yeah, so I think they did a pretty big clean out of like the youth team. We were Royal Youth at that stage, and we were about 16, 17.
Cool.
And it was kind of the end of the NPL season before it went into the NYL. And pretty much every year they would cut players and keep players, and just depending on your age, if you weren't really looking with the first team, then you were moved along. For me, I went overseas, so it was something different. I went to the US and did the college system, so that was a different experience. But a lot of other boys, like I said, would then just go back to their local NPL teams and try and take a different route. But
Try to get the first team and go through that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, one thing I did want to ask Carlos is, being a keeper, obviously there's one position to go for. Who'd you beat out for that first senior start? Do you remember? Was it an injury? Was it a performance?
My first senior start was the pre-season cup. I think Ivan came off. Genchi just wanted to give me a run. I think we were cruising. They were up 5 or 6-0. Then obviously I was mixed with the 20s. My first start would have been at Parramatta, and that was through a suspension.
Yep.
Then my first grade full-time career started when I was turning 18 at Blacktown Spartans. The coach at the time had been my coach for 3 years in my youth. And yeah, I went there, and the only time I sat on the bench as a number 2 was at the Wanderers ever since.
Good segue.
Good
It's like
segue.
you knew what was coming. Western Sydney Wanderers gave you the opportunity to sign a pro contract, I'm assuming. How did it all go? How did it come about, and where did it go?
Yeah, that was like a great experience for me. I was training at Jimmy Fraser's Keeper Academy at the time, which was pretty much where the Wanderers were going to be based. And they started pre-season June, July. And a couple months in, Ante Kovic said he had a bit of a knee injury, so they needed to give him a break and wanted someone to train, and our season was just finishing. So yeah, I jumped in to train there, and they were happy with the way I trained. I was fit, no injuries, no nothing. So yeah, trained through. Obviously they don't sign a third in the A-League. I think even now they don't sign a third keeper.
It's the youth boys.
Yeah, just the youth boys, right? So I mixed full-time working with training as best as I could. But it was hard. I already had a mortgage. I was 22. And my wife was pregnant. So, Popper, to be fair, said, just do the best you can. Whenever you can come. And then Jared Tyson towards the back end had stress fractures, I think, in his back, it may have been. And I signed as the injury replacement then. And I had the last 2.5, 3 months, which for me was great. Going to a full-time setup and not having to work and just train. Yeah. It was easy.
Could be handy. Did you get close to getting a run?
Yes, I was on the bench for, I think, the Derby, the minor premiership, semi-finals, finals. And to be honest, I thought come the minor premiership game at Newcastle, I thought I was going on. Heskey got underneath Kovic and he's gone straight over, and it looked like he landed pretty badly. And I thought, oh, here we go, might be on here.
Doing these ones.
Yeah. Well, you never want him to be hurt because, to be honest, Ante Kovic was great with me. He was 37, 38 at the time, but he was brilliant. And obviously nothing ever happened. Probably the same thing in the grand final too, when he came out to the edge of the box. If he goes a couple more yards and he brings down Stajowski, he said to me himself after the game, he just stopped, you know what I mean? Had he kept going, maybe he cleans him up and it's a different story, he knows what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, sliding doors, I guess.
Yeah. Are you, any chance or any sort of desire to get back to that?
I lived it. I gave it everything I had. I was close. I had, a couple of trials set up after that as well. But keeper coaches change or coaching staff changes, and that changes plans completely. That happened to me twice. And that's when I was like, you know what? I've given it everything I can. I was working full-time, training full-time. My son was there. My daughter was on the way. And yeah, my body wasn't going to take it anymore.
Too much.
Training 6-7 times a week.
Yep.
So now, after that, 3 times a week training, 4 times. Yeah. It's easy.
That's why I don't play professionally.
It was hard. It was hard just to commit all that time to it. There's a bit more to it. But now, it's about trying to help somebody else along. I've got Zach right now, and the kid should go a long way. He's only 20. I know it's young for keepers, but I still think he should be a bit further than what he is. You want to help somebody, hopefully he makes it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, if you're in his corner, mate, buddy.
I think with the keepers, and as you said, like everyone looks at them going, oh, they're too young because keepers mature age a lot older, I guess, in their footballing careers. But you look at Matty Ryan, thrown in the deep end, persisted with. Yes, he made mistakes, but they backed him. I think that could work for a lot of young keepers in the area. Like, if you're good enough at 20, you should be playing NPL, or you should be at least given an opportunity, in my opinion. But
yeah, it's funny, like, because keepers can be made to be a target, obviously, and they can be made a scapegoat when things go wrong. So do you reckon that's why? Like, coaches are hesitant?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Like, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. With the keepers, Matty was a great example. I think he had been with John Crawley from the age of 10, maybe 12. So he was never going to hang him out to dry, no matter how many mistakes he made. And like you just said, persisted with him. That's all it takes, right? Someone to give you the chance and to hang in there. A-League's probably good for it with no relegation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Which is another conversation
exactly.
that we always have. But yeah, you're right.
And yeah, it depends where the club's at, right? There is great young keepers and players even in the NPL, but getting a crack in the A-League like that, it's just it's not that easy.
No, and we talk about quite a lot. The players being recycled through the A-League, and you look at players in the local leagues and think, well, give them a crack. But it brings me to the next point for you, because we often talk about, or we have people who want to talk about, who are the best players outside the A-League, and quite often your name comes up as one of the better defenders who isn't playing professionally. is that on the radar for you? Is it something you're keen on?
Yeah, I would be keen on it if the opportunity came up. I think, as Carlos said, there's a lot of things that have to go right, timing, opportunity, and then I think as you get older, I'm 27 now, so I have to weigh up the decisions with my lifestyle, what I'm doing, make those decisions. When you do go full-time, is the contract there because you're giving up work? So there's a lot of things that have to go right, but if the opportunity presented itself, I think I'd be stupid not to. And right now I'm just trying to play, have fun, keep fit, so that if something like that does come up, I'm ready to take it. But yeah, as we know in football, Carlos mentioned it as well, coaching changes, player changes, injuries, it can be there for you or it can sort of come up out of the blue. So you just, try to stay ready, and if it happens, it happens.
Fair enough. It must help, like, knowing some of the boys you have there at Knights as well, like the likes of Oscar Dillon and Aaron Reardon have both had opportunities at that level. So, I mean, maybe, are you holding out hope that maybe it's overseas somewhere, that something comes up?
To tell you the truth, the overseas option is probably something that I'm not looking too closely at the moment, just because, as I mentioned earlier, I did some time in the US in the college system and sort of enjoyed being away from home in that time. And now that I'm back, I'm pretty settled and my family's
Happy
here.
to stay around.
Yeah, I'm happy to stay here, and Australia is a pretty good place to live. So I think, for me anyway, chasing the overseas dream is more what you do when you're a little younger. Now I'm a bit older, you have to make wiser decisions about your life. So being here and, like I said, just enjoying my football, and if something came up in the A-League, that would probably be more realistic.
Fair enough. We never know, mate. We'll see what goes on.
Yeah, I guess, to that point is the best thing about, I guess, the NPL and obviously this national second division talk is a lot of you're seeing that the clubs that are being more successful in the NPL are the ones that are starting to take it like they're pro clubs. And you both had clubs that, from the outside looking in, that are trying to put their best foot forward to run it a bit more professionally. So you're probably better off in those situations to learn and grow, and you've obviously got good coaching there to then maybe take you to the next level. Would you think that that's an affiliation or something that would, I don't even know how I'm trying to say this.
Does that help your cause?
Yeah, I guess, like obviously with Scott McDonald too at the Knights and the way that they're running the club, do you think that would give you the better step forward to getting into a professional setup?
Yeah, I think with Scotty especially, but Adrian, the owner of the club, he doesn't really hold back on anything. Everything he does is 110%. So the way the club's set up, if it's not considered professional, it's right there within reach. So the way we're doing things now and in the future, the way we'll continue to do that with Scotty on board as a coach as well. He's football crazy, and he was a professional himself, had such a good career. So he's not going to bring He's not going to bring anything else to the club that's not what he thinks is the highest standard. So yeah, the club definitely helps with that. And then I think any young players who get an opportunity, that gap's a little bit smaller if they're going to an A-League club coming from somewhere like the Knights. So yeah, it's only going to help, other players and myself. And
might be the second division when it eventually materialises. Maybe that's the chance for the likes of yourself, or even other players who will come through in a similar position where you're struggling to get a look in for whatever reason. But maybe expansion helps with that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Still don't know exactly what's happening with that. I don't think anyone knows.
No one knows.
I'm listening, but no, it'll be interesting with how that sort of how that happens over the next couple of years. But
it has to mean more opportunity, if nothing else, potentially.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly. Well, we'll get to the heading of the episode, which is leading by example. Obviously, you're both captains of your club. Leadership, is it natural to you?
For me, it is. I've been captain. I was captain at Spartans for 9 years, and 4 of the 5 that I was at Mount Druitt, Logan when I came for the one season, and now again. Ties in with my work as well, just managing. But yeah, to me, I don't think there's too much to it. I think you just lead by your actions and what you do. Do you know what I mean? People follow. They see how you perform, and they're like, yeah, all right. You know what I mean? Let's just, if you can do it, let's go with him.
Yeah, Austin, any?
Yeah, more or less the same. I think comes naturally. For me, different maybe a little bit to Carlos. That's his roles in management. I don't really see that being my calling outside of football. I think I'm mostly a leader at football just because I'm loud. I want to lead by example, and I want the best for the group. So I think as a young player, you're one of the better players. You always end up in a leadership role, but then as you grow up and you become a senior player, it happens naturally, just trying to do the right thing.
Is there any previous captains that either of you played for that you try to model your leadership skills around, or take some good things, bad things, and anything that you've really moulded your captaincy around?
For me, not too much. It's sort of just looking at what people did. When I was at the Wanderers, Michael Beecham was the captain.
Yeah.
And apart from being probably the nicest person on the planet, like just watching him day to day and just how he treated people, how he prepared for training, games, just the way he spoke, you know what I mean? He knew when to step in when he had to, but he was pretty chilled most of the time. If he ever did say something or raise his voice or something, there was a reason behind it. So he's probably the one that, I probably picked up the most from. But, you know, everyone leads differently.
Yeah.
There's some that are more boisterous, some that are a bit quieter, lead with their actions. So, you just watch and learn.
How do you think the boys at Gold Coast United would describe you as a captain or as a leader?
I don't know. They'd probably say I'm pretty loud. But, I always say this. There's two versions of me. There's pre-kids me at 24, 23. And there's after kids. And, most of the people don't know me pre-kids. And it was a different level.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
To post kids, So I don't know. It depends who you ask, I guess, what timeline I came across them.
Fair enough. How about you?
For me, to speak to the earlier question, I think Justin Mackay, as I mentioned earlier, he's probably the main leader that I probably looked up to. I think as a mentor and just his actions, what he did, and how he treated players, young players coming through. But then I think most importantly, and maybe to answer that question there as well, is he was always still a part of the boys. Like he was never sort of separate or closer with the coaches. I think a big thing was he had that respect from the players, but was still amongst the players. So personally, I try and sort of lead that way as well. Is I don't want to be a coach, I want to be a player and just do a little bit, lead by example. I'll probably take a more reserved approach to how I handle things, and just help the boys get everything done and just get the job done, and then if I can assist Scotty along the way, that helps too. But I would say it's a bit more of a reserved approach.
So you wouldn't call yourself one of those captains who's a coach within the team. You're more happy just to do your own role and lead by example.
Yeah, I think just lead by example, do my own role, and then we have such good players all around the park, so everyone's coaching each other. I think
that's to make things easier.
Yeah, everyone's leading by example themselves, but every now and then when someone needs to be pulled along, I think that's the most important part from my role.
Just on that, do you find it easier to captain an experienced side as opposed to, trying to bring through a younger crew who haven't been there and done it before?
I think that's a really good question. I think it's probably case by case, player by player. Our group we have is really good. We have a lot of experienced players, which we spoke about, lots of A-League experience in our squad, which is a higher level than I've played at. So it's an interesting dynamic with me being the captain to players who may have had and have had better careers than I have. But the group we have, they're so willing to help out and to lead by example themselves. There's always conflict with competitive, young men, but it's good conflict, I think. And if you lose that, I don't think it helps you as a team. So as long as it's within reason, and Scotty helps with that massively. He's had probably a better career than anyone in our setup. So the fact that he's had that, he's able to sort of kind of cut the egos down if they do come up and manage that conflict. But I like being captain or leading or being a part of a team with more senior players and more experience, because you're learning a lot yourself. I think with the young boys, you want to help them and encourage them and make them feel welcome, but they're trying to learn from you. And I think personally, I want to continue to get better. So having boys with heaps of A-League experience is always going to help and helps the group as well. So I wouldn't say either way is better, but a combination of both probably.
Fair enough. How about you, Carlos?
Yeah, I guess it's a similar answer. And again, it's a timeline thing. So when you're a skipper at 24, it's a bit different. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you've got an older team. The way they treat you, you're still learning. Like I was just said, it is different. But as you get older, you realize they look up to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I'm maybe the second oldest now that Juzzy and Mitch are gone in our squad. So you can tell, especially the younger ones, the late teens, early 20s, look at you in a different light. It just depends. Like very similar answer, case by case. Sometimes with the more experienced guys, you don't have to say anything. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's more about the younger ones, and it could be something like training or just not showing up or effort or something like that. You might have to have a word, but
kick up the arse.
It's something. You know what I mean? It's like one of your kids.
Clip around the ears.
It is different. No preference to one or the other.
Fair enough. Last season, you blokes won pretty much everything. Looking back on that, do you think you can do it again? Is that the aim, or are you looking for better now, or what's the go?
Yeah, it was a good year, of course. We always say we want to do it again. We want to do better. We want to go further in the cup. win all the trophies that are there. We were just speaking about earlier. There's the new Queensland sort of Cup trophy to be won as well. So I mentioned it, Adrian, Scotty, they have high standards, and winning trophies and doing everything we can is part of that. So yeah, really good year last year. But I think to start the season, Scotty and Adrian said last year's last year, draw a line under it, means nothing really now. So we want to do it all again. Some players who have been there, but a lot of new faces as well. So how that looks for them, it's a new experience for them. So as a group, I think, we want to do it all again, do more. But of course, last year was a great year and one to remember, but it is,
I know you said you tried to draw a line under it, but I'm going to go back to it again.
Yeah.
Was there a specific time or like a moment in time where you guys felt like we can do a treble here?
I can't pinpoint a specific moment, I don't think. I just know we didn't start well last year. We didn't, have an amazing start. We dropped points, we had losses, and we weren't playing great as well. I think the biggest part was when we started putting performances together mid-year, and then the results were following, and then other teams were dropping points, and we could see that we were getting over teams which might be hard to get past with good performances that were sticky for other teams. That was when it started to sort of set in. The table was reflecting it a little bit, probably that midway point. And then, of course, the Kappa Cup was the first trophy that we were able to get. So that was an interesting one, a new competition. And like I said, the club with a new competition, why wouldn't we want to go and win it? There's different perspectives of what that cup is, but for us, it was another trophy to win. So once we got through the groups, I think knockout semi-finals and finals, you want to win that. That's sort of where the most exciting games happen. And that was probably what jump-started us being pretty good in knockout games.
I think once you got over that hump of beating Southside Eagles away at Bullingdon Memorial Park, that was probably when you felt you could probably beat anyone.
That could be the point.
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Carlos, I guess last year for Gold Coast United, you had an unbelievable start to the season in terms of like really pushing for that premiership, and it wasn't until late that it sort of like, I guess, drifted away a little bit. How do you see this season so far, and how do you see you guys sort of jumping back up into that premiership title race?
Last year, we started really well, but we only started well defensively.
Yes, correct.
We only conceded 2 penalties in the first 8 rounds. Like, you're never going to start a season like that again. So it was weird. We knew we were lacking goals from the start, apart from, I think, round 1 when we played the boys, and obviously they had 9 men. We didn't really put anyone away, not in the cup either. I think we had Narangba was 2-0. Toowoomba might have been similar. So, we knew we were struggling for goals, but defensively we knew we had something. Holding on to that for the whole year was going to be tough. We did keep a clean sheet, I think, in 50% of our games with all the cups and that. But, you can't be in a battle. You can't be in a 1-0 every week. You're not going to,
It takes a very good side to be in a 1-0 every week.
And it just hurt us. We kept, we used to talk about it. We said the same thing. We were just in a battle every week. And, you can only go so far like that. At some point, we needed a 3 or 4-0 win where we could cruise for half an hour and then back that up the week after. And we just, we weren't able to do it. And then, we started to feel the pinch towards the end.
Yeah. This year, I think I tipped I tipped 1-2 in our tipping comp. Probably hasn't started the way you had envisioned. Obviously, you talk about doing so well defensively last year and not being able to score goals. Some of the guys you brought in, attacking-wise, I would have thought that may have turned a little bit. Is it just not clicking at the moment? Is it injuries? What do you see as the...
No, look, we feel a bit better going forward.
Yeah.
We've definitely scored more goals than we did last year. I think we had 24 at one stage deep into the season, so we've definitely scored more this time around, and we've conceded, I think, 1 a game average with 4 clean sheets, I think, so far. So we've started in a similar vein, but I think it's just been the inconsistency, a bit of rain.
Yeah.
We haven't had back-to-back weeks. Then getting on training pitches down on the coast is tough. There's not a lot of fields available, even through pre-season. So we're a bit all over the place. So, just a bit of continuity would be good.
Yeah.
Just to get a bit of a rhythm and hopefully, get some back-to-back results.
Yeah, this bloody rain can go and
Can do one, can't it?
can boot off for a little bit. What do you reckon?
Speaking of rain, water, what's in the water down the coast? Because the Gold Coast has dominated pretty much the top 3 leagues in the men's game for the past couple of years. I mean, obviously yourselves last year in the NPL. Was it Surfers run away with QPL 1 before whatever happened there happened, but then QPL 2 Broadbeach as well, streeted that league. What's going on down the coast?
It's home for me, so I just came home and I'm at home, but I feel like it attracts good players from all around Australia, wanting a change of pace from Vic and New South Wales, and
it's a
why
good
not
place
go
to
live
obviously.
on the beach
Not
and
a bad place to live.
play.
Obviously, are you residing on the coast now?
Yeah. So, we got shut down a couple of times with COVID in New South Wales, and my wife and I were on the fringe of buying. Buying out west was what we knew. And then my mum was already up here. My sister went to Bond Uni. They'd been up here for 6-7 years. She's like, why don't you take a look up here? And it was half the price for the same thing.
Bit of a change from Western Sydney.
Yeah, exactly. 20 minutes from the beach. The kids are near my parents, my sister. And I could still play, which was leaving Mount Druitt was hard. It's still hard. It still feels weird. But it's different lifestyle up here. You can't get wrong to the Gold Coast, right? I used to come on holidays every year. Now I just live here.
Just live it, yeah.
Bloody why not? I mean, Mount Druitt to Logan was probably a little bit of a similar move, but going to the Gold Coast is quite different. But yeah, Dust, I don't know. Maybe we go down and fill our water bottles up before our QPL 4 games, eh?
Maybe, might help. I'll splash them on my face.
I mean, both you boys were selected in the Queensland team to face Victoria last year, both unavailable for whatever reason, probably gone on holidays or gone surfing, whatever. But how do you see those sorts of games for like to be rewarded for such a great season? How important do you think this representative sort of teams are?
Look, I think it's a good concept, and it's always nice to be recognised, by your peers, coaches, whoever's voting. You know what I mean? It's nice to get selected. It would have been nice to play as well. I think the timing of it is probably the biggest issue, right? I mean, it's late in the season, or for us would have been 4 or 5 weeks after the season.
Does make a lot of sense.
The ones with families and that. My son was already waiting to go hunting and wanting to go on holidays, and I can't tell him, oh, sorry, we can't because I got one game in Victoria. It's hard, a couple of injuries as well. I like the idea. Definitely like the idea. I know they did it in New South Wales pre-COVID with Vic, and there's definitely something there. How it looks and how it works, I don't know, but there's definitely something there.
You keen to go around again if it comes up this year?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, I always throw my name in the hat if performance is based to get picked. 100%.
And if it suits.
And then exactly. Then if it suits, do you know what I mean? Like I watch a lot of American sports, and maybe it's a thing that it's like a pre-grand final. Yeah, right. The grand finalists aren't in it, but like Super Bowl, they're not in it, but the Pro Bowl's still the week before. Maybe it's something like that, so it's not so late. Players are still involved in a sense. You sort of make something out of it.
And if that means players involved in the grand final miss out, so be it.
100%. But obviously that's the main one, right?
But you're still in season, so it makes sense to play it. Yeah. No.
I mean, there's got to be. I agree. I think there has to be some sort of representative. I don't know how it looks either. Even if it's just like a break, in mid-season break or something like that, and you select the teams on the form, because generally the better players are going to keep getting picked every year. There might be an outstanding, like an outlier here and there, but maybe have like a tri-series between Vic and New South Wales. Don't know how it looks, but Austin, you're a part of the Queensland side that actually beat the Raw, I believe. How was that? And obviously it was a great experience for you, but how was the representative team and honours to you?
I think, it's good to be recognised. Good to play the Raw, something different. I think that year we couldn't do the New South Wales versus Queensland because it was just after COVID. So it was different because I know the year prior they did that. And then it's in the Raw's pre-season. So for them, it's an interesting game to play. Obviously, they're familiar with all the players that they're playing against. And, we've played with and against a lot of the guys at the Raw. So it's an interesting sort of timing, us being at the end of the year and them going into pre-season or being in pre-season. But it was a good experience. It was a good game. Perry Park's a really cool venue for something like that. Getting the win was a nice way to cap it off for us, all finishing our season. And for them, I don't think it made, too much of a difference. It was just another pre-season game for minutes in their leagues. So cool experience that way. I think it is better to do something against Vic or New South Wales, sort of as you spoke about, as a little series. That adds another element to it again. And then I think for me, the best part is just getting together with boys from other teams and training and sort of you battle it out with them every week, but your mates, you've played together as juniors. So then being able to get together and have a couple sessions and then play a game like that, like it's good fun. And
I think it's good too. Just to like Queensland, I've always felt like Queensland always get put to the wayside in terms of the quality that we've got up here. So it's good to see your best go against the best of Vic, best of New South Wales, because obviously there's a lot more money down there. There's a lot more resources for a lot more clubs, but generally we do pretty well with those sorts of games.
If you put together an NPL Vic team in the season, like there's guaranteed 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks.
Exactly right.
So that tells a story. With train, like, because obviously when you get put together in a Queensland rep team, it's like, all right, boys, we're going to come and train once or twice before we play, or
I think that's generally what it is. I think before we played the Raw, it was 2 or 3 sessions, and you get together and it's a knockabout. I guess Aaron Philp was the coach then, and he has to select a starting 11 from those 2 or 3 sessions. He probably knows before moving into that game, but who's available. And
just picturing like back to under 12 rep team when you sort of line up and you meet everyone and shake hands.
It's a little bit like that.
Different club kids just keep going.
Everyone knows each other though, that's the thing. So a lot of us have played with each other or of course against each other. So it's good to see your old friends from the
I think as you both said, it's a great concept. I think it has to stay. Just how the format sort of eventuates or evolves needs to be different. Because I think you need to have the best of the best. Like, it's good seeing the game, but you don't want, and no disrespect to the guys that played, but a lot of it was like, second, third, fourth, maybe picks with availability. You want to see the best of the best play each other, which would be...
That's the whole purpose of it, so...
Yeah, especially with scrapping that NPL final series, right? It was the grand finalists, I think, or first place.
Yeah. Playoff against each other.
Yeah, that was all right when they did it for a few years.
I didn't realise that had even been scrapped. That was...
Yeah, that, I think, pre-COVID or COVID, and they binned it. There's got to be something, like they've thought about it, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of different ideas, so they will.
Fair enough.
I don't think us 4 are the blokes to make those decisions.
No,
we all agree that it's a good decision.
We can figure it out right here if we want. Let's stay for another half hour.
All right, get some beers. Let's do it.
Quick fire, boys. Best player you've played with and against? Start with you, Carlos.
With Shinjiano, he was...
we'll go on. We'll go on.
He was unreal. Seeing him up close and personal was... something else. And then played against, I'd probably say Franco Parisi, number 10 at Apia. I think he might have played A-League for a season or 2. But he's done well away from the pitch, so didn't need to be in the A-League. I think Apia may have even retired his jersey last week, the number 10.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, for a 70-year-old club, right?
Yeah.
Franco was unreal, just always time and space on the ball. Could finish, could find the pass, had this free kick, had everything. He was unreal.
Well said. Austin?
For me, I think I'll keep it local. Playing with Mitch Nichols when he was at the Knights when I first came back. He was our captain and he wasn't long out of the A-League at that point. And when he turns it on, he's a really good player. Obviously, his career, he's played a lot of games in the A-League and just being with him, every single day at training and seeing that. And he was a good player to play with. Yeah, it's
funny.
Good mate of mine as well. So.
It's funny with Mitch. Like, I've played against him as well a couple of times, and a lot of people who've never played against him, they'll talk about he's lazy or he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that or whatever. He doesn't stop moving the guy. His work rate's unbelievable. Yeah, and I think maybe to the untrained eye, you might watch Mitch and think he's not doing anything too flash, but then when you train with him and his vision and always moving, you get a new sort of idea of what he can do and why he played at the level that he did play at. Appreciation and you can see why he's a Socceroo. Yeah, absolutely.
And then played against, I think this was when I was in the US, his name's Jorge Hernandez. He ended up moving to the MLS out of college. He was a winger. I played right back against him and right centre back, and he just chopped me up. So that's one that sticks in my head.
MLS out of college, you must be all right.
So I think he got loaned out to a
real
USL
average name
championship
too
team,
to be a
but
pro footballer.
He was a Spanish boy who come over on scholarship and very sharp player. So you have those games that you don't forget.
Yeah, fair enough. What about locally?
Locally, playing against. Another one I don't actually forget, Marek Madley, when he was at Lions, just as a hold-up 9. Elbows, maybe not because, a bit of both. Physical and, of course, he's a player.
Big fan of the show.
But, is he? I hope he is it then. But, he was a handful back then. I think I was a little smaller and hadn't played against someone as physical as he was at that time. So that's probably one that stands out a little different to a tricky winger. But yeah, to keep it local, definitely
A bit different.
handful.
Fair enough. What about best coach?
For me, Ben DeHaan, he was the same coach I spoke about earlier. 3 years of my youth and 9 years at Spartans. Just, the way he'd get players to just buy in and just believe. And we didn't have a lot of resources when we were at Blacktown Spartans, but we went up 2 leagues real quick from basically Div 1 to the NPL. Yeah, he was unreal.
This bloke you said was real little.
No, this was that was ATEC Gench was Blacktown City.
I was going to say I had a bit of hope to be a really good coach one day though.
No, Ben DeHaan loved his football. Dutch background, good man too. Great family. Yeah, he was the best by far.
Cool. Yep.
I have to go Scotty Mack.
Of course.
Yeah, current coach. I think his professionalism and being coached by a player who has played at the highest level for me, that's the most exciting part is you're not just hearing it from someone who's learned it in a book, you're hearing it from someone who's walked the walk. So, especially tactically, I think us as a team, the last few years, we've come a long way and that's just been him relentlessly sort of being football mad. So for me, and then I think I have to make a mention to Sean Lane as well. Last year, having him as the assistant, he's a super guy, super coach, and a motivator. So I think the combination of those two, we're very lucky to have that.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty good coaching lineup, that isn't it?
It's not bad. Scott McDonald, Celtic legend, whatever.
Celtic legend. Toughest team to play in the NPL. Obviously, you can't say yourself.
23s on a Thursday night, maybe.
Yeah.
That'll always do you, wouldn't they? The 23s.
Always better the night before a game. Toughest team, I think going up to Sunny Coast for us, it's our longest trip at the moment. We always end up having it on a Sunday afternoon, whether that's on purpose or not, I'm not sure.
Yes, it would be,
so.
mate.
That's been a challenging place for us to go over the years for nights especially. Recently we've done okay up there, but it's not easy. Even 2 weeks ago when we went up there, we were cruising and then some injuries and some time off and it ended up being a challenge for the last 10 minutes. So I'd say that for us is a bit of a bogey team or a bogey place.
Were you there for the infamous the loss to Sunshine Coast Wanderers up there?
I wasn't there for that one, but I know, it's infamous.
It was Greg Pittock's last game in charge, wasn't it?
You're right. Yeah, I wasn't there for that, but there you go. That aligns with us.
For me, it's got to be Blacktown City. They're always brilliant. They have been for 20 years. They're always in the top 3. They're relentless. There's ex-A-League players there. Travis Major, Mitch Marley, Danny Choi.
Yeah, it's quite a lineup, isn't it?
Yeah, and just years and years of the same thing. By far, it's got to be them.
Good.
If there's one team in the Queensland NPL to play for other than your respective clubs, who is it?
For me, probably an easy one, just because I grew up with the NSL. We're not in the NPL right now. It's QPL, but it'd be Brisbane Strikers.
Yeah.
Perry Park is, if you grew up in that NSL era, you know what it means. You know what Brisbane Strikers were. You know the history behind it. So for me, it's quite an easy one. Even though I live on the coast, it would be them.
All right, so she'll cut us down to
Jared Tyson's
Jared Tyson's out of the job next year.
For me, it's probably a scandalous thing to say, but Gold Coast United, just being born and raised here, always played here. I don't think I'd want to go anywhere else in the Queensland NPL. I'm happy at Knights. I wouldn't really see the need to go there, but yeah, for the sake of this question, it would be Gold Coast United. Just
you're happy
for
at
where
Knights,
I
but
am.
you want to go to Gold Coast.
You're happy at Knights, okay. So, all right. Well, we can cut that out if you think it's going to be an issue with the Croatian
as long as it wasn't
down
just
on the Gold
a one-liner Gold Coast United. You let me explain myself and it's okay.
Actually, we can clip this. We can clip this
we'll
to
put
be
it up
like
with zero context.
Gold Coast Knights captain.
We'll put it out the week before you play United again.
Yeah.
Just to
All
be
right,
safe.
boys. And last one for us tonight, probably the best question of the night. Best 3 on a night out.
I'll start us off. There was 4 of us who always went out together last year, and that was Richard Juglassian, Ante Poliak, and Tyson Martin. 2 have moved on, so Tyson Martin stays in the top.
I've got
the
a
top 3,
spots.
2 spots. We've not won anything this year, so we haven't had any massive nights just yet. But I know Tyson, Sam Klein, and Brad Inman. That's sort of the 3 musketeers at the moment.
I've got a story for you, Ante Poliak, on a Bundaberg trip for Rochdale Rovers a few years ago. I cannot say it on the podcast, but maybe off air.
Well, you say Sam Klein. Like, he
I
used to hang around us when he was young.
I remember him.
We played with his old man.
Remember him being in the club, in the changing rooms with us. We played with his dad, Joachim. Talk about player. He was one hell of a player. And obviously, Sam's probably a bit better than he was, which is scary because Yoki was some player. Yeah.
It's funny to see Sam go around now. He's killing it too.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
Good. He's good on a night out too.
His dad's good on a night out too, so you must learn from him. Carlos?
It's got to be Miljan Pavlovic. Again, another ex-A-League one through Wellington, but he's a madman. He's insane. Or was. He's calmed down now. Jacob Batubia has got to be another one because, man, he's hilarious. He's what he thinks he is as to what he is. Two totally different things. I love you too, but no way.
We all know. We all know people like that.
And then Nicholas Trimble, old Mount Druitt centre back, just love the night out. Good lad. I'm pretty sure I paid for half his house as our win bonus. He even named his barbecue after me.
That's brilliant.
Good stuff. That's us done, boys. Keep bloody leading the way. I hope the season goes the way that you all hope it does. But thanks for coming in, boys. It's been good to chat.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, boys. And
nice.
maybe you both have a job in. You're probably sitting where we are when he's decided to stop playing football. Because he's a lot better than we are.
Better looking too.
Better looking. Come on a night out for you two. If you sound like you're having that much fun. And I'll be dead set hanging off your shoulder for those win bonos, I tell you.
Thanks, boys. Been good.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.